The envelope had yellowed at the corners, its flap still sealed. But the weight inside? It was heavier than paper. I found it tucked in a box I hadn't touched in years. Danny's box. The one I couldn't bear to open. Not since he stopped calling. Not since he left college with no goodbye. There was a time he used to leave me little notes. Sticky paper hearts on the fridge. Scribbles under my pillow. Good luck today, Mom. Thanks for making lunch. But this letter, this one wasn't from him. And it wasn't from me either. It said things I never wrote. Words I would have never sent. But he believed them. Because love, when twisted, sounds a lot like truth. I wish I could say the hurt came all at once. But some betrayals don't knock. They seep. Until all you're left holding is the silence someone else put in your name. He called me just after noon, the kind of time he usually forgot to check in. But that day, his name lit up my phone like it still belonged here. "Hey, Mom," he said, casual as ever. "I think I'm going to take a break from school." I stood in the kitchen, apron still tied, hand on the kettle. "A break?" I asked. "From college?" "Just for a little while," he said. "Don't worry." But I did, because that wasn't the voice of my Danny. That was someone trying to sound grown, without knowing what grown means. He didn't give reasons, just silence between each sentence, like he wanted me to fill them in myself. 3 days later, he came home with Lila. She wore perfume too strong for morning and smiled too much for someone meeting me the first time. I poured tea. She declined. Danny barely looked at me. "She's been helping me think," he said, fingers tapping the side of his cup. "I realized I don't need college to live a good life." Lila nodded. Some people follow rules, others build their own road. Her eyes never blinked. I wanted to ask who told him that. Who told him I was forcing a life he didn't choose? But I just sat there, watching him drift further, even as he sat across from me. The next week, he started packing. First, the textbooks, then his guitar, then the hoodie with the university logo I bought him during our campus visit. He left that one behind, still folded, still in its wrapper, like a gift returned, unopened. I called him twice. No answer. The third time, he texted back. "Please stop. I need space." Not Mom, just that, like a fence around his name. Weeks passed. Then a letter came from the university. Final notice. No more payments had been received, but I had sent it. I remembered writing on the memo line, "Spring term, you've got this." I'd sold my bracelet to make that check. It cleared. I checked, but the school said it hadn't arrived. I told myself it was a system error, something lost in transit, but part of me already knew. That knowing grew when Lila sent me a birthday card. Just from her. The handwriting neat, round, unfamiliar. Inside, she wrote, "Hope you're well. Danny's doing fine. Some kids just need a little distance." The phrasing, it clung. That wasn't Danny's tone. That was her voice. Soft, steady, sweetened on purpose. I read it twice and realized I'd heard that voice before. Not from across the table, but from Danny's mouth, reshaped. She wasn't just beside him. She was guiding him, one word at a time, away from me. I didn't confront her, didn't ask him why. Because when your child starts turning away, sometimes the only way to hold on is to stop pulling. So I folded the card, tucked it in a drawer, and waited. Not for an apology, not even for the truth, just for him to remember the sound of my voice before someone else spoke louder. The silence came in slow, not all at once. First, it was missed calls. Then, shorter messages. Then, nothing at all. I still set a place for him at dinner for weeks after he left. Not because I thought he'd walk through the door, but because I couldn't bear to see that side of the table empty. The fork, the napkin, the way he used to fold his bread before eating it. I kept doing it all, like muscle memory, like prayer. I once baked his favorite pie and brought it to his apartment. Lila answered. She said he was at work and smiled too sweetly. She didn't invite me in, didn't even take the pie. I left it on the stairs. Watched from the car as she walked back in without looking down. That pie stayed there for 2 days, until the box turned soggy and the whipped cream sank into itself. I never made it again. I started sorting through old boxes after that. Photos, report cards, drawings he made in 2nd grade. One said, "My mom is my hero." He'd drawn me with a cape, lopsided but proud. I held it to my chest and cried. Not loud, not messy. The kind of crying that doesn't even move your face. It just fills your ribs and makes breathing feel too big. I remembered how he used to hug me with both arms and all his weight. How he once ran back to the car after a school drop-off because he forgot to kiss me on the cheek. He was 7 then, but the memory still felt warm. I sent him letters after he stopped answering. Little things, recipes he liked, an article about poetry, a note that simply said, "Miss you, always here." I don't know if he read them. They were never returned, but there was never a reply. I told myself he was busy. That young love does that to boys. That maybe I had been too firm, too careful, too much. That regret, it clung to everything. Evenings became heavier. I'd sit on the porch with 2 mugs of tea. One stayed untouched, but I kept pouring it, just in case. There were moments I almost called, almost texted again, but I stopped myself, because by then I had started to wonder if I had become someone else in his mind, someone he didn't recognize anymore, or worse, someone he had been taught to forget. And that kind of grief doesn't come with funerals. It just lingers. In the corners of the hallway, in the sound of a phone that never rings, in the way you fold their old hoodie and pretend it doesn't still smell like the dorm room he never returned to. I found the letter on a Tuesday. The kind of Tuesday where the rain doesn't fall. It just hovers. Gray sky, quiet house, and a cardboard box I hadn't opened in years. It was Danny's box, still taped shut. I'd moved it from closet to closet like a wound I didn't dare unwrap. But that day, I did. Not for any reason. Not because I was ready. Just because I missed him more than I feared the ache. Inside were notebooks from freshman year, a frayed lanyard from orientation, and a small white envelope tucked between 2 spiral-bound journals. No stamp, no return address. Just his name, Daniel Kerrigan. I opened it with shaky hands. The paper was thin, university letterhead, typed lines, sharp, cold font. Dear Mr. Kerrigan, based on updated information from your family, we regret to inform you that your financial support has been terminated. Please consult with the bursar's office or prepare to withdraw. At the bottom, scrawled in blue pen, Danny, your mom said she's done helping. I'm sorry. MD. I sat down, slowly. The chair creaked beneath me, like even it didn't want to hold this. MD. No full name, and not a single professor he ever mentioned had those initials. I stared at the letter, and my mind replayed every corner I had pushed into shadow. The voicemail he never returned. The card from Lila with his photo, but never his words. The sweatshirt he left behind, still in plastic. It wasn't me who walked away. It was never me. And this letter wasn't from the school. I pulled out the manila folder where I kept receipts, tuition payments, bank slips, and there it was, a canceled check from the same month. I had written, "Spring term, you've got this," in the memo line. Sold my engagement bracelet to send it. So why would they say I stopped paying? I looked again at the envelope, the handwriting, too round, too polished. It looked familiar. Not from Danny, from someone else. Then I remembered. That same handwriting had been on the birthday card I got the year after he left. The one that said, "He's doing great, give him space." I had thought she was just trying to comfort me, but she wasn't. She had been curating what Danny saw, controlling the messages, even pretending to be me, pretending I had let go. I went back to the box, flipped through his old poetry book. Inside, tucked in the crease, was a receipt for certified mail, addressed to a name I didn't recognize, but typed using my maiden initials. It hit me all at once. The way Lila had offered to help me organize our office computer. How my email had glitched that month. How Danny suddenly switched his address on the school form. She had planned it, not in cruelty, but in quiet control. And he had believed it, because he was 19, and in love, and I was just his mother. I sat for a long time. No tears, just silence. Then I did the only thing I could. I put it all back. The forged letter, the mail receipt, the photo from her card, even the hoodie he never wore. I folded them neatly, wrapped them in brown paper, and sealed them in a smaller box. I wrote one sentence on the lid. "For when you're ready to remember." And I climbed up the attic stairs, placed it gently beside the blanket he once clung to when thunder shook the windows. That night, I made 2 cups of tea, just like I used to on Sunday afternoons, before the silence took root. I left his cup across from mine, full, warm, waiting. Not because I thought he'd come, but because something in me still hoped he might feel the warmth. I could have called. I could have sent the evidence. I could have cornered her, accused her, shouted every truth from the rooftops. But I didn't, because sometimes, when someone you love chooses a version of you that isn't real, it doesn't help to correct them. It just makes the silence louder. So I stayed still. Not because I was weak, but because I was strong enough to let him choose his own way back. If he ever came, if he ever looked, he'd find the truth waiting, neatly packed, carefully labeled, never pushed, just placed for him, whenever he was ready. And if he never opened it, well, at least I knew what was inside, and that had to be enough. I didn't write to him again, not after the last letter sat unacknowledged for months, but I didn't throw anything away either. Not the notes, not the receipts, not the hoodie. I kept everything, and one quiet morning, I packed it all in a box. Brown cardboard, clean tape. I lined the inside with the soft blue paper from the nursery drawer he once used for art supplies. Then I added the hoodie, the one he never wore, still folded, still waiting. I placed the forged letter too, and the real check I had photocopied before mailing, just so he'd know, if he ever wanted to know. Then I slipped something else inside, a certificate, one I'd requested in secret from the university. It wasn't a real degree, but it said, Daniel Kerrigan, completion of Foundations in Literature, issued in recognition of original enrollment and academic promise. It wasn't official, but it was acknowledgement, a reminder that he had once belonged there, that someone had believed in him, that I had. I wrote one line on a note card, not signed, not dated. Some doors don't close, they just wait. I placed the card on top, then sealed the box. No label, no address. I didn't send it. I carried it to the attic and placed it beside the other box, the one from before, marked, "For when you're ready to remember." Now there were two, and still, I didn't speak of it. But later that month, I heard from a neighbor that Danny's daughter, my granddaughter, had started asking questions. She wanted to know where her father went to school, why there were no photos of him in a cap and gown, why Grandma Marilyn wasn't in any frames. I didn't answer. I didn't reach out, but I did send a book, wrapped in brown paper. No note inside, just a pressed leaf and a library card from Central State College tucked between the pages. The book arrived the same day Danny's daughter turned 7. I don't know if he opened it. I never asked. But a week later, someone sent back a photo. A little girl, sitting on the floor, holding the book, wearing the hoodie. It looked too big on her, but she didn't seem to mind. She knocked so softly I thought it was the wind. But when I opened the door, there she was, small, brown curls, holding a book I had once wrapped in brown paper. She didn't speak right away, just looked up at me, then looked down at the hoodie she was wearing. It hung off her shoulders, sleeves past her hands, but she tugged them up like it was hers. "I like stories," she said. Her voice was quiet, unsure. "So did your dad," I replied, "especially the ones where the hero gets to come home." She smiled and stepped inside. I didn't ask how she found me, didn't ask if Danny knew. Some moments don't need the weight of questions. I made tea, chamomile. She didn't want sugar, said it made her sleepy. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where I had once folded his college forms, the same table where I left 2 cups for years. One of them finally had a hand to hold it. She turned the book in her lap. A pressed leaf slipped out and landed near her saucer. She picked it up carefully. "Was this yours?" "No," I said. "It was his." Her fingers brushed it like something sacred. Then she whispered, "Dad doesn't talk about college, but I think he misses it." I nodded. He had so much promise. I always knew he would shine. We didn't mention Lila. We didn't mention the years in between. Some silences are better left folded. But before she left, she reached into her little bag, pulled out a piece of paper, a drawing, a woman, curly hair, blue cardigan, standing beside a girl with a big hoodie and a book. She had written at the top, "Me and Grandma, Tea Day." I held it like it was gold. No tears, just breath. As she walked down the path, she looked back once, waved, that same small hand tugging the sleeve again. I left the door open until the wind came in. Then I poured another cup of tea, set it on the table. Not for her, not for him. Just to say to the room, I'm still here. And this time, it didn't feel lonely. Some stories begin with goodbye. Some begin again with a knock at the door. And sometimes the people we lost aren't gone. They're just waiting to be remembered right. If you've ever loved someone who forgot the sound of your voice or mistook your silence for surrender, there's room for your story here too, in the space between what was said and what was felt. You can whisper it below or send it to me quietly. The email's just beneath this video, love. Every mother has a truth she never told. What's yours?